So, so from next week onward, you should be doing, your team lead should organize group studies. You guys should have schedule set up ahead of time. We have calendar on your team application. Basically, calendar is set up for you, and all you need to do just fill in your meeting details. When you're setting up your meeting, you can hold your meeting on this Zoom link that we have here, or you can do it in the Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams allows you to set up reoccurring calls. So you can have your meeting set up there for individual team, homework, group studies, and things like this. So what type of group studies usually the students has been doing in the past? They're, so, here we are teaching, right? A lot of things are high level, a lot of things, in 1 hour, we're not able to explain in a way that you understand, or a lot of you understand. So that's why group studies are held with your team lead, who are a little bit more experienced than you are, and they're going to explain to you everything in a way that you understand. And also, it's going to be multiple times in a day. So, but you must participate. You should participate. You should not just participate in the meeting. Also, you should participate in asking questions, trying to add value to the meetings so that it makes sense. If we have meetings scheduled and no one shows up, there is no reason to have meetings. Maybe your team lead will set up meeting a couple of times, and when he sees that there is no value, he will just drop out and not set up calls. So, we should respect everybody's time and be aggressive, and spend some time in those group studies wisely, and add value to it. Like I always mention, like, we need to take extra steps. We need to be aggressive and things like this. Once you do it, you will see good outcomes. When you feel that you are a good enough QA, when you're able to sell yourself, it's all about selling yourself. If you're confident within your abilities, everyone else will believe you and give you a job. But if you feel that something is missing within you, then no one would give you a job. Like, you need to be able to sell yourself to sell yourself to someone else, right? It's that simple. So build yourself in a way, not only you are learning, you're also establishing leadership skills, right? And how do you build those? You build those by being aggressive, participating in those group studies, asking questions, and things like this. All right, with that, I'm going to start. And today's topic would be where we left off the other day. So we talked about STLC, right? And then we talked about in STLC, what are the different methodologies, right? If you remember, in STLC, we have different methodologies, right? Like waterfall, agile, and V models, and things like this. So we're going to continue with those topics. So STLC, right? And right here, right? Let me zoom in a little bit so you can probably see better. Okay, so we talked about requirement phase, planning phase, development phase, and all these phases of STLC. And then we move on to methodologies of STLC, right? Let's pull them here. Waterfall here, V model, and then and agile. We talked about agile, and today we're going to move on to part 4, right? If we remember the STLC diagram, where we had so testing phase, right, where we as a tester, we perform our testing. But how do we perform our testing? That's what we're going to learn today. We're going to start learning those, and then we'll see where we end up. So part 4 is STLC. Let me show you quickly the the diagram so you will remember, right? All right, so this is the diagram that I am talking about. And right here, we're sitting in software testing phase, right? And what do we do here? This is exactly what we're going to learn today. In software testing phase, I hope you guys remember I said we start our STLC process. And that's what we're going to learn. So this is our STLC process. And what is that? STLC process, STLC stands for software testing, testing lifecycle. So testing is a sequence of different activity performed by a testing team to ensure the quality of software or product. So basically, you know, this is the job of a QA or a software tester. We perform testing to ensure that application is built right and it's working as expected. And these are the, how do we perform those testing? These are the process of STLC, right? So we start at the very beginning by analyzing and understanding the requirement. You guys remember requirement phase, right? You know, so requirement phase is where we understand and analyze the requirement to make sure that, you know, is good enough and things like this. And we'll talk more about this. Then as always, like for everything, we need to have a plan in place. Same thing with testing, we need a test plan. So after requirement phase, we have testing phase, and then we have test cases phase. Then we have requirement traceability metrics phase, also known as RTM. Then the other phase is test environment phase, then test execution phase, identify and log defects, and then next tracking of the defects, and then creating reports at the end. You know, we always create reports, things like this. So we can try to understand one thing at a time, right? There are many things that we do as a tester, and we can start with the testing analysis of the requirement. So first, before we analyze the requirement, let's understand what is the requirement, right? Requirement can be, we talked a little bit about requirement in the past, right? Requirement is something that is written in an application or Word or piece of paper or things like this to define what you want from the system. Right? Like we talked about before, right? You know, an IT company business owner can come in and they can give their requirement and say, hey, build me a product that does certain thing, right? And when they said that, it has to be in a written form in an application or whatnot with proper details. And we need to take that that requirement and we need to convert it into an application in a software product. To do that, we need to first understand, analyze and understand the requirement. And once we understand it, then only we can go ahead and create those application, right? So how do we, when we are looking at a requirement, right, how do we understand or analyze the requirement? We just need to ensure it's clear, it's testable, it's not ambiguous, it is bounded, and things like this. I think we have a couple of points written here. Okay, analyzing the requirement. Test team analyze or studies the requirement from testing point of view to understand, where is it? Identify the testable requirements. If anything is missing or not understandable, then quality. All right. So all we are saying here, right, read through the requirement and understand if there are any gaps. And don't take it lightly, guys. You know, requirement is given, but more often than not, it's not clear. More often than not, it's ready. More often than not, it's not complete. So your job as a QA, not just you, developers and other team, the designer, all of us will go through it, we'll start reading it, we'll try to understand it. But at the same time, it becomes your responsibility to find if there are any issues or if there are any gaps. We need to highlight that. Now, a requirement can be written in one big document or many different documents, or in a tool, like some of you probably know, Jira is one of the tool where you can simply create a ticket. You can create a ticket to write a small requirement or big requirement. So regardless, however a requirement is written, your job is to understand what is the outcome should be of a requirement. And I can give you an example right now, and let's see if you understand, right? a business owner or whoever, they can come in and say, okay, can you build me an application? It has a login page. Someone should be able to log in to that application. That's my requirement. Now, my question to you, do you think it's a complete requirement? Do you think it's good enough? Do you think is that requirement has any gap, or you think it's a complete requirement?
I think it has gaps.
Are you able to identify some of the gaps?
So it's not complete because he should tell what login he wants, like how many characters or what character he wants for the username or password or anything. What the length should be, and it should be only the alphabet, or there should be some character in there.
Exactly right. So the idea is when a requirement is given, you need to see it from every angle. First, is it complete? Is it testable? Is it bounded? Are there any other gaps? Things like this. So if someone comes in and say, build me an application as a login page, and user is able to log into that application. Now it's fine. It kind of makes sense. But when it comes to testing, how do you test it? How do you test an application that has a username and password field, but there is no limitation to it? How do you test an application? The username or password can be anything, any digit, any characters, any limitation. You cannot test it, right? So things like this has to be defined properly. So when it comes to requirement phase, understand all of those. It's very, very, very important. Now, moving on to the next one, right? Well, let me show you an example of a requirement so you understand before moving on, because it's important that you understand. All right, so let me pull something from this requirement, RTM, simple requirement. Okay, so this should be a good one. So this is a requirement written in waterfall model. And back in the days, requirements were written like this, right? A big document, big, like this one, 23 pages long, but I have seen 1,000 pages long requirement as well. So I'm not surprised. So requirements are written like this, right? It has cover page as usual, and it has version number and release number here. So version is document version, right? You know, first version of the document is usually like this, 1.0.1 is 1.0.0. And then if you make any changes to this document, you kind of update this version number. Like the very last number represent the minor changes. So let's say, you know, this is this document is created and shared, and then you realize I need to make small changes, then you're going to make the changes and update the version number to your right. And then if you make medium changes, then you'll update this version. And if you make any major changes, then this version will be updated. Again, requirement, you know, you don't write requirement, and this is not your job. This is something would be business analyst doing, but I am just giving you an example. Okay. Now, next thing is Tableau content. This is where all the information is given. Usually it's clickable. And then purpose of the document, it explains why this document is created. And then project overview is always going to be given there. And then these are actual requirement, like you have like architecture diagram here, and it's talking about which the login page, and let's see. Okay, so and then it gave you a screenshot, which is a design diagram. And so basically this is what they're expecting us to create and test. And the next functionality of it is this right here, my info section. And this is a screenshot of that. And the fields and all the details are given there. And then the photographs, and then contact details, and so on. So you get the point, right? The requirement is it's been written like this for the longest time, and this is waterfall way of writing a requirement. But when it comes to agile, right? We talked a little bit about agile last week, but we'll continue talking about agile. When it comes to agile, they'll just target a piece of it. They'll not write requirement in one document as the entirety. They'll just say, okay, my info, this is one requirement, and they will break this one down further, try to make it much more smaller. I can probably give you an example from my work if I didn't log into my work yet, so that's going to be a challenge. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I'll show you a requirement written in Agile, and usually most of the people, they use Jira, and we will, in IT solutions, we'll also use Jira, so no worries, you're going to learn exactly what you need to learn. Okay, so let me find the ticket. You guys can probably see I'm struggling working with the what do you call it, laptop. I've been so used to working in a big monitor. Okay, so I'm going to show you furthermore. Let's go to Coconut. All right, I hope that you're seeing my Jira screen, Jira software screen. Okay, so you can see, right? You can see tickets are written here. Let me open a couple of them. Each one represent a small requirement. Okay, a couple of them. Okay, so you can see here in Agile, so we have requirement written here, and this is much smaller than what we saw on that document right here. They're saying create a new repo for node model service. So very small requirement. This is the description of the requirement. The header and the description is written here, basically. They targeted one part of that application and say, we're going to create this, and that's it. So this is one example, and this is another, and this one does not have much, so I'm not going to show you at all. I can probably open another one. Let's see, yeah, this one should be good. Okay, so another one example of requirement in Agile is, like I said, is much smaller. And requirement is here. So, okay. So it's basically you have the header, you have the description, and we'll talk about acceptance criteria later. And there's a screenshot here serving as design document. Well, there are many screenshots. There's an attachment here. So you get the idea, right? In waterfall, the requirement is big, and Agile requirement is broken into a small piece, and usually it's written within a tool. Either it is Jira or ALM or Monday.com or some other tool. It depends what they do with it. Any questions or concern with the requirement, or is it clear? So again, as a tester, first thing we do, we analyze and understand the requirement. We don't write the requirement. We don't modify the requirement. We don't do anything with it. We just read through it. So if this is a document, we read through it, we understand it, and wherever we see is not clear, we identify it, and then we ask questions. So let's say, so your question could be and should be like, what do we do once we identify the requirement gap, or if there are any issue? So a couple of ways you can deal with it. So if you're working in waterfall environment, right, and requirement is given to you like this, right, a big requirement, what you do is you create an Excel sheet with all of your questions and concerns, and you send it to your business analyst, your appropriate person. And once you're working in an actual project, you would know who it is. So you'll create an Excel sheet and give it to that person, and that person should revert it back with their comments. Now, if you're working in agile environment, you could simply go here, right? You simply go here and comment right here. You have a comment section right here. You can just make your comment and say like, hey, if you can clarify this or whatnot. Right here, you see, we do that here, right? If you go through those tickets, you're gonna see a lot of comments written here. So same thing you can do here and do your work, right? That's the second way. And the third way is you would have your daily calls with your team. You can bring those questions there and get them clarified. So these are the things you can do when it comes to requirement phase. Any questions about requirement phase, what it is and what to do in requirement phase? All right, seems like you guys good. So moving on to test plan phase. So this is a big one, and this requires an entire session on it, but I'll start and see what happens. So if this is clear, I don't want to confuse you guys, then we go and start planning. Once requirement is understood, we go start creating our plan, which is test plan. So test plan is basically a document, and in that document, we kind of create our plan as entirety. To let the management know, to let the client know, to let the bigger group know that how we're going to be performing testing, what are the date, who are involved in testing, what is our approach of testing, what are the tools we'll be using, timeline, and any other things that we feel that we need to mention, we mention it within that document. If we scroll down a little bit, I think it does talk about, no, it doesn't. Oh, it does right here. So what is test plan? Test plan is a detailed document which explains how the entire testing will be done. Typically, test plan contains cover page, just like you saw in the requirement. Like, it's a decent document, right? Whenever you create a decent document, make sure it's presentable, make sure it's organized, make sure it's detailed enough, things like this. Just like when you're submitting your homework, I ask you to create the document which is presentable, because you're in a professional environment, you're sharing something that must be presentable. Make sure the document name is there, date is there, your name is there, the purpose of it is there, and you're writing in a way it is acceptable. Don't just write it for the heck of it. You make sure it's presentable. There is no spelling error or any other type of error. So things like this, right? Whenever you're sending an email, you need to look out for those as well. So when it comes to test plan document, which is a little bit more professional, right? So you need a cover page, table of contents, and introduction, purpose, scope, test approach, test entry criteria, test exit criteria, test acceptance criteria, test deliverables, test schedule, roles and responsibilities, test environment, acronyms, risk assessments. So these are standards, but that doesn't mean you need to have all of them just like this. As long you have enough information to kind of explain broader audience that what is the purpose of this document and how your entire testing is going to be done, that should be fine. But for interview purpose, learn this. They will ask you about test plan. You can explain to them what is a test plan and how do you create a test plan. If they ask you, have you created a test plan? The answer is always yes, because you're going to be creating one here in IT solutions. So, take note of that. And I can probably show you an example of a test plan. Let me see if I can find one. If I can find. Okay, I can show you from my work. Okay, all right, so this is the test plan for my work. So let me download it so it's going to be better. Okay, so if you can see my screen, as usual, a test plan has obviously the name of it, and right here is talking about the project. This is the name of the project, and like I said, release version. So this is the project name and MVP release, which is the very initial release. So which is a similar thing as 1.1.0. So this is the release version. Release is tied to the application. So application has multiple releases, right? Very initial release is like 1.0. An initial release might go with very small functionality like the login page and the main functionality of the application. And as we grow as a team, as an environment, we'll have more releases, like release 2.0 or maybe 1.0.1 or something like that, right? Depending on how big is the changes. Like I was explaining in the last document, right? We had the initial version is like 1.0.0, and then if you make further changes, you'll change those naming convention accordingly. So here, test plan, we have, this is the cover page, and it has the name of the document, the name of the project, the release version, and document version. So here's the document history, date, the approver, and then we have this details. Okay, and obviously introduction is here as usual, and it will talk about the purpose of the document and the project summary, project details, basically. Project objective as well. Give me like 30 seconds, guys.
Tell everybody you're muted. I don't know if you did it on purpose, but just pointing it out.
Yes, Moen, it was on purpose. He just had to step away for a quick minute.
No, just give me 1 second, guys. There's a Azan going on. Okay, sorry guys. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so then obviously this is important right here. We're gonna have to define the scope of testing. In scope, you're gonna talk about the things that part of your testing in scope testing. Like there are different type of testing, and you'll learn about it as you go along this course. We have like smoke tests, sanity tests, end-to-end tests, functional tests, regression tests. We'll learn about those in coming days. So, and then you need to let them know like the things that is not part of the testing, which is out of scope testing right here. You must have a section where you're gonna say, all right, certain testing will not perform. In this case, we said, okay, mobile testing is something we're not gonna perform. So we notify them, up front. Roles and responsibilities, right? When it comes to the project and testing and everything, the folks must be there, their title and their responsibilities, right? So everything is there. So it's nice and clear. Then entry and exit criteria. So entry is basically how you enter your testing, and the exit is how you exit out of your testing. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more in next week classes, because this concept is pretty big, right? How do you enter and how do you exit out of your testing? Okay, so these are okay. Then the next important thing is test deliverables. Like, what are the deliverables can you provide during your testing? So test deliverables are nothing but different evidence, different documents that you will be providing during your testing. For example, test cases, bug documents or results, requirement traceability metrics, test plan documents, things like this, all right? And reports, weekly reports, daily reports, status reports, things like this. What else? Don't think like you need to learn this in and out. It's just have an overall idea. This is not something you're going to be creating every day, maybe once in a lifetime. And even if you do that, you will have a template in place, either in the company or in Google. It's pretty straightforward. This document I created took me only 2 days, but usually like document like this, you could spend like a week on it and still find. Okay. What else? Let me see. Reports. So reports you can create like summary report, status report, completion reports, things like this. And for all of these, templates will be in place, or you can Google it. Final report, which is the sign off report, meaning all of your testing is done and you're signing off. You will be providing enough information there. Tools and bug reporting. So what type of different tools or technology you used doing your testing. Things like this you can identify and kind of share. What else? Bug reporting, like how did you report the bug? What are the field and approach you had? Things like this. And this is a bug life cycle. We'll talk again, guys, we'll talk about this in details. We'll spend a lot of time, but here I'm just giving an idea. And test plan is a document that is disappearing. Like before, no one would be accepting your testing without a test plan. But right now, people are moving away from test plan because Agile does not support test plan. Waterfall supports it. The physical document is not supported in Agile. So people are moving away from test plan. I've been in this industry long enough, but I only created this one test plan document. I did not, like 10, 15 years, I created just one document. That's it. And, I spent some time researching, Googling, spending some time putting this together in a way that looks good. But usually, people create test plan, it's very laughable. All right. Then after creating bug documentation, you can define the priority and severity of it. Test environment, you can talk about which environment you tested. So there are usually 4 environments out there, and we'll talk more about it. Usually there is a dev environment, there's a QA environment, there is a UAT environment, there is a production environment. So we'll talk more about it in coming days. And we just understand, we as a QA, we test in testing environment, and that could be a interview question. Where did you perform your testing? So you should say in QA environment. And the name of your environment could be QA environment or test environment or staging environment. You can just say, in my last project, the name of our environment was QA environment, and that's it. Simple. So these are different type of testing, right? Smoke test, sanity test, functional test, end-to-end test, database test, things like this. What else? Risk, assumptions, dependencies. So before going into testing, you can talk about the different type of risk. And majority of the time, the risks are tied to either documentation, requirement, documentation, either it is not clear, it's not given properly, or document is changing frequently. Things like this you can identify as a risk. Another thing is late delivery of the application, meaning like, developers are working on that application. They have given it to you for testing at the very late stage, which is an issue. So what you want to do is identify that and ensure that they know it. If they provide that application at the later point of the project, it's going to be an issue of you for you to complete your testing. So you want to address it before, so that they know it and they provide you with that application early enough for you to perform your testing. Another issue is always, poor communication. If the communication is not done properly, that's a big issue. And poor communication can be from top down, from the management to product, business analyst, developers, designer, QA, things like this. Another big risk is frequent changes of the requirement. Let's say client has given you requirement and they start changing it frequently. That's a huge risk. So things like this, we need to identify prior to it. And then obviously acronyms, you want to kind of define them here for everybody to understand. All right, so in a nutshell, this is the test plan. guys, do not stress too much about test plan. This is something you will not do every day. This is something you'll be doing once in a lifetime, maybe if you're lucky. If not, for your understanding purpose, you need to understand test plan as a whole, and also to have enough experience to talk to your an interview whenever test plan questions comes in. So I would request you guys next week spend some time throughout this week, understand what is the test plan, you know, how do you create a test plan, what are the things included in the test plan, and then, you know, we can take it from there. Also understand requirement, like, you know, what do you do when you get access to the requirement, things like this. All right, questions.
Can I ask something?
Yes, please.
I was going to say, you know, the test plans, are you going to show us how to actually write one? I know you said we might not need it, but are you going to show us how to write one, like for an example, or are we just going to discuss the topic?
Yeah, so you're going to be writing a test plan for when we start working on a project. So you still have time, right? So right now we're going through explaining you the theoretical part of documentation and the process. But once
Yeah,
that
that's
is
fine.
done, once that is done and you're comfortable, we're going to start a project. You're going to be working in a project, performing all of these activities that we're showing you right now.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are the test plans, like, are they supposed to be like 18 pages, like for this one, or like it can be any amount of pages? Like, how long does it have to be?
Could be anything, and as long you're covering what it needs to be, in like the things you need to include in a test plan, that's all it really matters.
Thank you. Bye.
Sure. Anything else? It's 6:30 a.m. here. Is it? No, it's not 6:30. It's 4:30, I think, a.m. here in Bangladesh. I should be the one sleepy, not you.
Get some rest. Bye.
Yeah, no, I will, but I want to see a little bit more action from you guys.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said that because in Agile, we work more with Agile, and that's why the physical, documentation, like a test plan, is not supported by Agile. So it's fading. So, but we're gonna need a test plan anyway. So how that will be done without the document kind of thing?
In Agile is created in a way you don't need a test plan, and it does not support test plan. As you go more deep into Agile, you'll understand why. But there will be situation where they may ask you, even in Agile, please share me your test plan. And that's for a special need. For example, right now, today, so this particular project I'm working in for the last 2 years, because we're working in Agile, we don't need test plan, we don't create test plan. But we have like 10 different projects in the pipeline, and we're having 10 different active projects right now. And one of the project is isolated, and it's a complete project. It's a small project, but it's a complete project. And it's very, very important project, and clients are involved, and they want to see a test plan. So product manager came up to me asking for a test plan. And I tried to explain to him, hey, we're in Agile, this does not support test plan. But he said, I know, but this is something I think we should deliver. So I created a test plan, a simple version of test plan, and shared it with him. So situation like this might arise and you need to be ready for it. Forget about the actual work. You know, you need to go through the interview process. The interview is harder than the actual work. Work is easy. So you need to go through the interview process. And to do that, you need to understand test plan, how to create a test plan, and things like this. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else, guys? Okay, so the big thing is like going forward, I would like to see a little bit more action from you guys in Microsoft Teams. The group is going to be there now, and you all will get access to it. Work with Redmond. You should. It's simple, straightforward. You'll get an email from Microsoft Teams. If you haven't already, you should. You all should have access to Microsoft Teams. If you
Thank you, Glenn.
haven't,
It will come with tomorrow's email. In the morning, they should all
Okay.
receive an email by 9 a.m. To all the members, you'll receive an email at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. If you don't receive it by 10 a.m., please check your inbox and also check your spam folder. And if you don't receive it there, please contact Ashfaq. His email is located in the WhatsApp group chat. Thank you.
okay. So Ashfaq, if you're here, so Microsoft Teams, are we giving through the application, or we're giving the access separately?
All the members will have the link in Microsoft Teams. So once they get access, they'll see a tab saying Teams links. And then when they click on the Team Links tab, they'll have the Microsoft Team links. So